I always thought love was supposed to feel loud. Like fireworks under your skin. Like being seen, admired, wanted every second. Ethan wasn't like that. He was gentle, patient, consistent, calm in a world that fed off chaos. And for the first 3 years, I thought that was enough. But then I started craving more. Craving attention. Validation. Proof that he loved me the right way, not just quietly. It was stupid, I know that now, but back then, all I could focus on were the tiny things he didn't do. The nights he was tired after work and didn't comment on my new hair. The times he forgot to say goodnight because he fell asleep on the couch. The mornings he kissed me but didn't linger long enough. Little cuts that I turned into deep wounds. And that's when Adrian entered the picture. My new coworker. Confident in a way that wasn't loud, but dangerous. The kind of man who looked directly into your eyes when he spoke, like he already owned the answer. The first time he complimented me, it hit different. "You're seriously the smartest person in this room," he said, leaning over my desk. "I don't know how your boyfriend lets you leave the house looking that good." It wasn't what he said, it was how he said it. As if Ethan was oblivious. As if I was wasted on him. I laughed it off. Told him Ethan was great. But from that moment, a seed was planted. One watered by every insecurity I had allowed to grow inside me. Ethan cooked dinner that Friday. My favorite, pasta with that homemade sauce he always stayed up too late making. And all I could think was, he didn't compliment me once. The pasta tasted like nothing. Later that night, Adrian messaged me on Instagram. "Adrian, you deserved better attention today." Just saying. My pulse jumped. I shouldn't have replied, I knew that. But my thumbs moved before my brain caught up. Me, thanks. I guess I needed that. The conversation kept going. Every laugh he sent made me feel weightless. Every flirty line made me feel wanted. Seen. I slept with my phone under my pillow for the first time since Ethan and I moved in together. The next week, boundaries blurred. Inside jokes. Long glances. Brushed hands. Complaints about Ethan I had never spoken aloud. "He just doesn't love me right," I told Adrian one night over drinks after work. Adrian's eyes darkened. "Or maybe you're with someone who doesn't deserve you." I should have defended Ethan. Should have walked away. Instead, I leaned in. He kissed me in the back of his car, hands gripping me like he'd been hungry forever. It was reckless and hot and wrong, and I didn't stop. That night, I climbed into bed next to Ethan, heart racing with guilt and excitement. He pulled me close, whispering, "Love you," before falling asleep. I stared at his face in the dark, wondering why it didn't feel like enough anymore. And that was the first crack. The beginning of the end. Because Adrian didn't push me into cheating. He just made me believe I already had a reason to. After that first kiss, everything changed, mostly inside me. Ethan still woke up early to make me coffee before work. He still hugged me from behind while I was brushing my teeth. He still left me the big blanket because he knew I ran cold at night. He loved me the same as always. But now every sweet thing he did felt like guilt pressing against my ribs. Adrian, though, he felt like electricity. He found small ways to invade my life, a hand on my lower back as he passed me at work, a text while I was in the shower with Ethan, a smirk when no one else was looking. He knew the hold he had on me. And he liked it. One day, Ethan surprised me by showing up at my office during lunch with a bag of my favorite pastries. I saw him walking in, warm smile, messy hair, wearing that soft jacket I always stole. My stomach dropped. Not from excitement. From panic. Adrian appeared at my side before I could move. "Who's that?" "My boyfriend," I muttered, trying to sidestep him. Adrian beat me to Ethan. "You must be Ethan," he said with a cocky grin. "I'm Adrian. I work closely with your girlfriend. She's a star here." Ethan smiled politely. "Yeah, she's a star everywhere." It should have melted me. Instead, I looked anywhere but his eyes. After he left, Adrian leaned against my desk. "He seems nice. But does he even know who he's dating? You deserve a man who brags about you the way I would." The worst part? I believed him. That evening, Ethan noticed I was distant. "You okay?" he asked, rubbing my shoulders. "Just tired," I lied, shrugging him off more harshly than I intended. He stepped back, worry flickering in his eyes, the first sign of a crack on his side, too. The cheating turned physical quickly. One night after work, Adrian pulled me into a supply closet, mouth urgent, hands impatient. My heart raced, not with fear, but thrill. "We could leave right now," he whispered against my neck. "You and me." "And go where?" I asked, breathless. "Somewhere he can't hold you back." I didn't realize he was planting a thought that would grow into poison. The next morning, Ethan made pancakes shaped like hearts. He kissed my temple and talked about a trip he wanted to plan for us. His voice was soft, hopeful. And I stared at my phone the entire time, waiting for Adrian's message. Weeks blurred into lies, late night, projects, extra shifts, a sudden interest in work events. Whenever Ethan asked questions, Adrian's voice echoed in my head. "He's too clueless to keep you." But Ethan wasn't clueless. One night, as I came home smelling like Adrian's cologne, Ethan sat on the couch, phone in hand. His expression was hollow. "Who is he?" I froze. My heart slammed against my chest. "What are you talking about?" I asked too quickly. He held up my phone, that one message I forgot to delete. "Adrian, last night was perfect. Can't wait to do it again." Ethan didn't yell. He didn't throw things. He just whispered, "How long?" His voice broke on the last word. I opened my mouth, but the truth crawled out slowly, too ugly to soften. "A few months." He stood up. Not shaking, not furious, just shattered. "Is he worth what you're about to lose?" I didn't answer. Not because I thought Adrian was worth it, but because I had convinced myself I deserved more than Ethan's quiet love. Ethan walked out of the room like a ghost. Like I had already killed the part of him that was mine. And in that moment, something inside me should have snapped. But instead, I texted Adrian. Because when you're falling, sometimes you cling to the very thing pushing you over the edge. When Ethan left the room, I expected him to yell, smash something, demand answers. But silence was worse. It meant he wasn't fighting for us. And deep down, that's what I'd always wanted, for him to fight. Instead, he retreated into himself, moving around the apartment like he was suddenly a guest in his own home. Sleeping on the couch. Coming home later. Avoiding my eyes. He didn't cry in front of me. He didn't beg me to stay. He didn't ask for details. He just behaved like I had already chosen someone else. Adrian, meanwhile, was delighted. He called me the second I texted him. "So he knows," he said, sounding almost amused. "It's bad," I whispered, pacing the kitchen with shaking hands. He won't even look at me." "That's his loss," Adrian said, tone sharp. "You deserve someone who wants you every second." He said all the things I used to crave: attention, reassurance, validation. And I desperately clung to it like a lifeline. But Ethan wasn't done. A few days later, he approached me while I was gathering laundry. "What do you want, Lily?" His voice was hoarse. Detached but trying. "I don't know," I muttered, eyes fixed on the floor. "That's the problem," he said. "You never told me you needed anything. You never asked for more." "That's because you should have known." The words exploded from me before I could stop them. "You should have noticed I was losing myself." Ethan stared at me in disbelief. "So instead of talking to me, you let someone else take my place?" I didn't have an answer. Not one that wasn't selfish or unfair. He walked away, but he left me with a sentence that would haunt me. "I loved you in ways you didn't understand. And you chose someone who never will." Adrian was the opposite of everything. Ethan was loud where Ethan was soft, demanding where Ethan was gentle. He filled my phone with compliments and my nights with heat. But in the mornings, when I woke up in his bed, there was a curve to his smile that felt wrong. Possessive. Like he didn't want me, he wanted what he stole from someone else. One evening, after dinner at his place, I mentioned Ethan casually. "He finally asked what I want," I sighed. I didn't even know what to say. Adrian's expression darkened instantly. "He's still trying to keep you," he snapped. "He's not trying to keep me," I corrected softly. "He's just hurting." Adrian stepped closer, jaw tense. "You don't owe him sympathy. You owe yourself better." His fingers gripped my chin, not gentle, not romantic. Controlling. "And I am better. Understand." I forced a nod. even though fear brushed my spine. That night, as I lay awake in Adrian's bed, his arm heavy around me, I realized something. I had traded someone who loved me quietly for someone who wanted to own me loudly. Ethan sent me one final text that week. "I'm moving out tomorrow. I'll send an address for your mail. I hope someday you find the love you were looking for." I stared at the message for a long time. Then I turned off my phone. Because admitting I missed him already would mean admitting I had made the worst mistake of my life. And I wasn't ready to face that yet. Adrian wanted me to move in with him the day Ethan left. He made it sound romantic, like some whirlwind love story where passion conquers everything. But it didn't feel romantic when I watched Ethan pack his life into cardboard boxes. He didn't slam doors. He didn't throw accusations. He just folded clothes we once laughed in, wrapped frames that held years of memories, and placed them gently into the car. He left behind a hoodie, my favorite one of his, hanging on the back of a chair. When I handed it to him, he shook his head. "Keep it," he said quietly. "You always liked it more than I did." It felt like forgiveness I didn't deserve. When the door closed behind him, the silence screamed. I moved in with Adrian that evening, not because I wanted to, but because I didn't want to be alone with what I'd done. At first, Adrian treated me like I was some prize he had won. Dinners out, expensive wine, constant attention. But it wasn't love. It was ownership. Whenever I smiled at my phone, he demanded to know who I was texting. If I took too long at the store, he grilled me about who I saw. My makeup choices became too much. My clothes were suddenly for other men's eyes. And if I cried? He told me guilt was a weakness and Ethan was a coward. One night, he noticed I still had Ethan's hoodie. I was curled up in it because it still smelled like him, laundry detergent and vanilla coffee. Adrian snatched it away, eyes burning. "You don't need reminders of what wasn't enough." He threw it into the trash. I didn't stop him. I just stared, feeling like the part of me that still loved Ethan was being buried alive. My phone vibrated later that night, a number not saved in my contacts. I knew who it was before I opened it. "Ethan, did you eat dinner?" "Busy day today, forgot to check in earlier." Even when he was gone, he checked on me. My chest tightened painfully. Adrian walked back into the room, shirtless, arrogant. "Who's messaging you?" I panicked and locked my phone. Nobody. Just spam messages. He didn't believe me. He grabbed my wrist, squeezing just enough to hurt. "Look at me when you say that." Fear replaced the thrill he once made me feel. "It's nobody," I repeated, voice small. He let go, but he didn't apologize. The next morning, I texted Ethan back. "Me. I'm okay. Please don't worry about me." He didn't reply. That silence hurt more than any insult Adrian could throw. Weeks passed. Adrian's sweetness decayed into jealousy. He questioned everything: my friends, my work schedule, my tone of voice. If I laughed too loudly at a text, he snatched my phone. If I dressed nicely, he demanded to know who I was trying to impress. I once thought Ethan didn't love me right. But this wasn't love at all. The saddest part? I was too ashamed to leave. I had told everyone Ethan didn't love me enough. How could I admit that the man I chose instead loved me too much in all the wrong ways? One evening, Adrian stormed into the room after seeing a smiling selfie Ethan posted him with friends, looking lighter, happier. "That's the guy you threw everything away for?" Adrian scoffed. "You made the right choice. He's weak. Soft." I swallowed hard, heat burning behind my eyes. "He was gentle," I whispered. "There's a difference." Adrian laughed coldly. "You think he'd take you back now? Not after what you did." I hated that he was right. I had destroyed my home and moved into a cage. I tried to pretend everything was fine. I tried to convince myself that what I had now, the attention, the heat, the intensity, was better than Ethan's quiet love. But every night, when Adrian fell asleep and I stared at the ceiling in the dark, my mind replayed Ethan's soft voice, his patient eyes, his steady heartbeat when I rested against him. Adrian wasn't steady. He was fire, exciting but destructive. The turning point came the night of the office party. Adrian insisted I wear a dress way shorter than I was comfortable with. "You should show off what's mine," he said, gripping my hip possessively. I forced a smile. At the party, coworkers noticed the change in me. The way Adrian hovered. The way I jumped when he spoke my name. They exchanged glances, pitying ones. I hated that they saw I'd fallen from grace. At one point, Adrian walked away to talk business with one of the managers, leaving me by the drink table. A coworker I barely knew, Hannah, approached me. "I miss when you used to smile," she said gently. "I'm smiling now," I forced out, stretching my mouth unnaturally. She shook her head. "No, you're pretending." My throat tightened. Before I could respond, Adrian returned, eyes narrowed. "What's going on here?" he demanded, voice chilled. "We were just talking," Hannah said, taking a tiny step back. "Mind your business," he snapped. He grabbed my wrist hard, the same bruising grip as before, and dragged me outside. Cold air hit my skin, but his anger burned hotter. "What did she say to you?" he barked. "Nothing, Adrian. Calm down. You think I'm stupid?" He shoved me against the wall, not enough to cause a scene, but enough to scare me. His face twisted, ugly with jealousy. "Maybe you want to go flirt with her next? Maybe that's your thing now, betraying the ones who want you." The sting of his words cut deeper than his grip. Tears pricked my eyes. "I'm not doing anything wrong. I'm with you, aren't I? I chose you." His hold loosened. His expression flickered, controlling rage melting into wounded pride. "You'd better remember that," he muttered before releasing me. The rest of the night I walked on glass. When we got home, he apologized, the manipulator's apology. Sweet words, gentle touches. Promises he had no intention of keeping. But I had seen the truth. The next morning, while he showered, I slipped his phone from the nightstand, partly out of fear, partly out of instinct. Messages lit up the screen. Not mine. Adrian, Sasha. Can't wait for another night like that. She has no idea. The ground under me seemed to disappear. My vision blurred as I scrolled. There were more, countless more. He wasn't just controlling, he was a liar. A cheater. A predator who saw me as his latest conquest. I had destroyed Ethan, a man who loved me honestly, for someone who couldn't even remain faithful for 2 months. Adrian stepped out of the bathroom, towel wrapped around his waist, water dripping down his shoulders. He froze when he saw the phone in my hand. We stared at each other, the truth finally naked between us. "Give me that," he said, stepping forward. "No," I breathed, stepping back. "You played me." His face hardened. "Don't be dramatic. You're better with me. You know that." But in that moment, something inside me snapped into clarity. "No, Adrian." My voice shook, but with strength. I was better with Ethan. He lunged forward, but I darted away, heart hammering. I grabbed my shoes, my bag, anything I could reach, and ran out the door barefoot, adrenaline carrying me down the stairs and into the street. I didn't know where I was going. I just knew it wasn't back to him. My phone buzzed as I reached the bus stop. A notification from Ethan, his first in weeks. "Ethan. Glad you're okay. I was worried I'd never hear from you again." My breath caught. I typed a long message, then deleted it. Wrote another. Deleted that one too. Finally, I sent the only words that felt true. "Me. I'm not okay." His response came almost instantly. "Ethan. Where are you?" "I'm coming." And for the first time in months, I felt like I might finally deserve to be saved. Ethan arrived faster than I expected, tires crunching against the curb as his car pulled up under the flickering streetlight. For a second, I forgot how to breathe. Seeing him again felt like stepping into a memory I wasn't worthy of. But then the passenger door opened. A woman stepped out, warm smile, gentle eyes. She looked at Ethan like he was a miracle she was grateful for. And he looked back at her like he finally believed he deserved that kind of softness. My heart twisted painfully. "Lily," he said, stepping toward me. His voice wasn't cold, just cautious. Protecting himself. "Are you okay?" I nodded, though tears slipped down my cheeks anyway. I didn't know where else to go." "You did the right thing," he said softly. The other woman approached and gave me a small, sympathetic smile. Not pity, just understanding. "I'm Ava," she said. "Ethan told me a bit about you. I'm here to help, if you want that." The sweetness of her offer made the shame hit even harder. They helped me gather my things from Adrian's building. Ethan walked beside me, always keeping himself between Adrian's door and me, like a shield, but never close enough to suggest anything more. He didn't ask questions. He didn't make me explain. He just made sure I was safe. When I was finally settled into a spare room at a mutual friend's house, he handed me a small bag, essentials he thought I might need. Snacks, water, a blanket I used to love. The hoodie wasn't inside. He didn't owe me that kind of comfort anymore. Ava waited by the car, giving us space, and a reminder that the love he once fought for had found a new home. "I'm sorry," I said, the apology that had been rotting inside me for months. "You loved me. And I didn't even see it." His eyes softened. "I did love you. I probably always will in some way." That almost broke me. But he continued, voice steady, "Loving you can't mean hurting myself." "Not anymore." I nodded, unable to speak past the lump in my throat. "I stayed too quiet," he said gently. "I should have told you I adored you every day. Maybe then you wouldn't have looked for it elsewhere." "No," I whispered, "that was my choice. My mistake." He inhaled slowly, then gave a sad smile, the kind that comes from healing wounds, not fresh ones. "I'm glad you got away from him," he said. "You didn't deserve that." "And you," I whispered, voice shaking, "you deserved so much better than me." He glanced toward Ava, who waved back at him, the kind of wave I used to give. The kind full of belief. "Maybe we both just needed someone who could see us clearly," he said. The wind brushed between us, the closest we would ever get again. "Goodbye, Ethan," I said, tears finally falling freely. "Goodbye, Lily," he replied. "Take care of yourself. Please." He turned away first, not out of cruelty, but strength. He had learned to walk away from what hurt him. Ava slipped her hand into his as he approached her. He didn't pull away. And I realized then. He wasn't saving me because he still loved me. He was saving me because he loved himself now. I once said he didn't love me right. But the truth was simple. He did. And I destroyed it.